Okay, good. Good. We're on verse 3. I'll just recapitulate. It's a blessing to have a human birth for various reasons. And it's equally a blessing to be endowed with the desire for liberation. And it's an even greater blessing to have a relationship with a teacher who can convert your desire for liberation into a desire to know. Most of us are not happy with the way we are experienced in life. That's why we're searching liberation. We're not satisfied with the experience that we're having. And we wrongly conclude that we need a different experience from what we're presently experiencing. And therefore we define enlightenment as a special kind of experience that's very different from our worldly or samsaric experience. And that's a big, big mistake. That's a huge mistake. Instead of inquiring into why I'm not satisfied with the experience that I'm having at the time, I immediately assume that there is an experience that will give me permanent bliss or permanent happiness, and I chase that experience. And that puts the gurus in business. That's what keeps the spiritual world humming. Is all these gurus that are promising you a special experience called enlightenment, which is going to take away your suffering. And they're happy to tell you all of the clever, neat tricks and techniques that they've discovered through their own experience, or by reading books or going to India and having things happen to them that are meant to work for you. And the problem with this whole experience chasing, and it's normal to be experience hungry, because we're just nothing but, as the Upanishad says, 18 hungry mouths. We're totally craving for experience because we're empty and we don't know who we are. So it's natural to crave for experience. But the problem with this notion of experiential enlightenment is that you're already experiencing the self 24/7. Why? Because reality is non-dual. That's why. It's a misunderstanding to think that reality is a duality and that there's some experience that you're not having that can satisfy you. Any experience that you have, good or bad, is nothing but your own self. That's the meaning of non-duality. When are you not experiencing yourself? When? Tell me. There's never a moment when you're not experiencing yourself. There's only one self. There's only one consciousness, and you're it. We're it. So whatever you're experiencing is nothing but awareness. All the time. Awareness is your nature. And experience is generated out of awareness, out of you. So why am I not satisfied with the experience that I have? Why is the experience I have unsatisfactory? What's the reason for that? Because I don't know my nature. That's why. See? I have this belief that I'm an experiencing entity living in a dualistic universe or pluralistic universe. And I feel incomplete and inadequate and separate because I don't know who I am. And I assume that these objects and these experiences that happen to me are there to what? Complete me and fulfill me. Not knowing that I'm already complete and fulfilled. See, so what Vedanta is saying is that you don't have an experience problem. You don't have an experience problem. You have a knowledge problem or an ignorance problem. It's the same thing. Simply don't understand what reality is. That reality is nothing but awareness or consciousness. That there's no other possibility but to experience what you're experiencing. There's no other choice. That doesn't mean you have to suffer and enjoy along with your experience. That just means that experience is not under your control. And if you say, well, if you buy the idea of yoga, and most of these people, well, you need to do these spiritual practices, whatever they are, awaken the Kundalini or get Diksha Shaktipat or something like that, and that's going to give you the experience of the divine. There's no logic to that argument that these people are making. Why is that? Because no action that you can do is going to produce a limitless result, is it? You want a limitless result. You want to be free. Freedom means limitlessness. That's what it means. And you're just one finite little person. You're going to push a special button at the bottom of your spine and send this Kundalini Shakti up through your chakras, and it's going to merge with Shiva, and there's going to be a big cosmic orgasm, and you're going to be happy forever, right? That's going to happen? I don't think so. And even if it does happen, it's only an experience, and what? It won't last. Because it's only an experience. Anything that was there isn't there now, is not going to be there later on. If something appears that wasn't there before, it's going to disappear later on. That's what we mean by unreal. Experience is unreal. It doesn't last. Reality, the word reality or real means what lasts, what never changes. But all experiences change, and the doer of the person who wants these experiences and does these actions, goes on pilgrimage, meditates, prays, does all these things, he or she only has limited knowledge and limited energy and limited power and limited desire. So it's not possible for you to create an action that will produce a limitless result, i.e. freedom. It's not possible. So you might as well pack it in on this idea that you can do anything to get what you already got. We said yesterday, Vedanta's listening, hearing. Through listening, through knowledge, you can discover what you already have. This is why qualification here. He says a burning desire for liberation and a teacher, qualified teacher. Why? The teacher's going to help you convert this desire for experience and experiential freedom into a desire for knowledge. Once you understand that the problem is you don't know something, then your mind becomes open to being taught. They worked it out. The rishis worked it out. Believe me, they worked it out. You're not going to figure it out on your own. I'm a smart guy. I couldn't figure it out on my own. I tried for 5 years, and I had all the experiences, and I studied all the texts and listened to all the gurus. I couldn't figure it out. Then I met my teacher. Within a couple years, boom, all sorted. Simply because I listened, paid attention. They figured it out. There's no reason why you should try to figure it out. This is a teaching tradition. Vedanta is a teaching tradition. The rishis will teach you who you are by removing your false or ignorant notions about who you are. See, everybody has a desire for freedom, but everybody's got a different desire of what freedom is, don't they? Huh? You know, like Christians think that freedom is salvation. You work hard here, you do the right thing, you're a good boy or girl, then you get to die, you go to heaven, you sit on the right hand of God and He saves you something. I don't know how it exactly works out, but you know the theory. They got the same theory here in India. Believe me, in the karma section of the Vedas, not the section we're dealing with, but in the section on karma, the section on religion, they have the same idea. You do all these good karmas, it's called punya, you get punya karmas, by following dharma, that is, by doing actions that are in harmony with the nature of the dharma field. And you get to go to what? Vaikuntha or heaven, some heaven realm. And there Brahmaji, the creator, is sitting. And there you can get moksha from Brahmaji, the creator. You have the same idea. Everybody's got a different idea of what freedom is. All around the world they'll tell you freedom is this, freedom is that, freedom is so forth. So we need to, you know, I told you yesterday this was a tradition of criticism as well. We tried to explain to you that we're not criticizing any people or any teachers. We're just criticizing bad ideas of freedom. We'll debunk some of these enlightenment myths, all of these enlightenment myths as we go along. The one we just did was what? No limited being can what? Produce a limitless result. Therefore, action what? Karma will not produce enlightenment. Karma, I do karma because I'm ignorant of my nature. So what? Every karma I do to get what? Free is going to what? Reinforce my sense of ignorance. It's going to what? Keep me believing that I'm a doer doing an action to get a limitless result. No wonder everybody in this spiritual world is so frustrated. Huh? This is the court of last appeals here, Vedanta. This is your last hope. Believe me. Because you've been through it all. You've tried all these things and it hasn't worked. It's because the idea of enlightenment's wrong. The idea of moksha is wrong. And the guru, that's why they need the guru, is to help you to understand why the way you're thinking about it's not the right way to think about it. And get your thinking on track. The spiritual world is the worst place to get information about enlightenment. No, because there's no standards, is there? There's no standards. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry who's had a third-rate epiphany can hang out a shingle and say, I'm a guru, and tell you what enlightenment is. How do you know? If I don't know what enlightenment is, if I don't know what freedom is, how do I know whether he's saying the truth or not? How do I know if his or her view of enlightenment is actually what enlightenment is? How do I know? I'm not the one to judge, so I just swallow what they say. And then when that doesn't work, I run with the next person, and the next person says it's like this, and then the next person says it's like that, and then after you've been in this like 10, 15 years, you're so confused about what enlightenment is, that you just, you're ready to tear out your hair and quit the whole thing. I got an email yesterday from some guy. He said, I've been doing this 27 years. I haven't changed a bit. Nothing's happened, and I realize now that I've completely wasted my life chasing the spiritual thing. Do you recommend that I go back to the world and try to succeed there? I think I can do better in the world than I could do in the spiritual world. So, I said, well, I'm not the one to tell you to do anything, but I think, you need to think about things a little differently. So what he's saying in this verse is, I need to convert this desire for experience into a desire to understand. And once that's really clear, then you're open to teaching. Then you can actually listen to what's being said and assimilate the knowledge. That's the purpose of the Guru. That's what we're doing here. It's not my teaching. I told you again, for the new people, this is not my teaching. I teach Vedanta. This is a proven means of knowledge. It works. It works. You can go to my website. There's testimonials of people who tell you, I don't know, every day people write in how this is an amazing teaching. This is what I've been looking for all my life. Thank you very much. Because this works. It worked on me, and I've seen it work on hundreds of people over the years. So it's not a personal thing. It's just that my idea of reality is not in harmony with what reality is. And once we understand, and these inquiries that we're going to get into, these inquiries here are just ways of getting you to understand and think about your own experience and interpret your own experience correctly. When you've got these fears and these desires, and you're uncomfortable with yourself existentially, you cannot interpret your experience properly. You can't see what you're actually experiencing and tell what it actually means. So you're misunderstanding yourself all the time. You're misinterpreting what's happening to you all the time. For want of a clear picture, a clear understanding of what reality is. All this mandala is just a description of you. This is a picture of you. Of reality. You are reality. You are consciousness, you are reality. This is how you look. There's nothing personal about it. There's only one being here, there's only three bodies. One self, one awareness has got three bodies. That's you. How you're structured, how you work, how the parts all fit together is not known to you. So you need to know. It's just science. It's called Brahma Vidya. Vedanta is called Brahma Vidya. It means the science of what? Of consciousness. Brahma means consciousness. It's just the science of reality or consciousness, who I am. And you'll see as this teaching unfolds, it's amazing. This mandala, we're going to develop it. It's going to take a while. This vision of non-duality, it takes a while to develop it in your mind. This is why we want you to come every day if you can, and not miss, and pay really close attention. Because slowly, 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 this teaching is going to build up this vision of non-duality in your mind. That's what we're doing. And then once it's there, then you've got all the tools you need to what? Live right here. Live happily here. What's lacking in all these modern teachings is what? Is a proper methodology. They've all got the right ideas. Your consciousness, you're not the doer, you hear all these things, right? But they don't have a methodology. They don't teach you what reality is and what action is, karma is, what you can do, what the value of action is, what the value of knowledge is, what, and so forth and so on. We're going to explore all these topics very, very carefully. These are complex topics. The self is not hard. Awareness is simple. We can handle awareness in about 20 minutes or less, maybe an hour, maybe half an hour. Because there's nothing to it. Huh? There's nothing to awareness. Why even bother with it? Well, we need to bother with it because you need to recognize what it is and understand what it is. But all of this, your body and mind, your three bodies and your mind and the world outside, that's all you too. That's all you too. No, I'm just awareness. Yeah, I'm just awareness. That doesn't count. Wrong. That counts. That counts. That's you too. You need to understand your whole picture, the big picture, everything. And what awareness is and how it relates to these three bodies and the world outside. What the macrocosm is, what the microcosm is, what the ego is, what the senses are, how this whole thing is constructed, and how it behaves, all the forces that are operating here, how ignorance operates, what the vasanas are, how karma produces problems, how karma can be the solution to problems. Needs to be very clear. So he's saying here, what a blessing it is to have this desire, to convert this desire for experience into the desire for knowledge, and to get some teacher or just teaching situation where you can actually actualize that. See, because honestly, and this is not an insult, you're not really capable of figuring it out on your own. If you were, you would do it by now. So when you come here, you have to admit I'm ignorant. I know the day I met my teacher, I had to throw everything out, and I was the most spiritual genius. I knew everything. I could just talk like crazy about it all, and I had all the experiences to back it up. And when I met my teacher, I threw it all out. I realized I didn't know anything. I was just babbling. I felt ashamed of all that I knew, really. It was all just cobbled together out of my my beliefs and opinions, out of my own ignorance. So when you come here, you got to know, hey, I don't know anything. And then we start patiently, slowly, building it up. Starting from ground zero. It's like we're just going back to kindergarten and starting on like that. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Remember that book? Did you ever read that book? No, probably that's before your time. You guys are, most of you, I'm an old timer. And that was the big book in those days. Suzuki Roshi from the Zen Center in San Francisco wrote a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Beginner's mind means you're not stupid. It means you're what? You're open. We're going to see what that kind of mind is. As today, I'll talk about it. So it says, verse 3, a person who is endowed with the proper qualities and an understanding of the Vedas, who holds on to the unreal and does not strive for freedom, veritably commits spiritual suicide. What does this mean when he says, holds on to the unreal? It means invest any of your time and effort in anything that's in samsara. Samsara means this world of being and becoming, this world of change. If you're holding on to things in that world, what happens? And you're not striving for freedom. Spiritually, you're committing suicide. You might as well just stay in that world, in this world, and try to make it work until you're ready to give up. Might as well just keep hanging on to the belief that there is some solution here in this samsara world until you're ready to let go. Because as long as you're still looking for something here, you're not going to be able to give full attention to yourself. I know everybody thinks they're just looking for the good job. Mostly it's love, isn't it? Mostly you're hoping that the big special love is going to come. You keep thinking, every day, or that the love you got's going to get better, or whatever it is. Usually it's you think, or security. You're looking for some kind of, not just emotional security, maybe financial security. or some respect, or some whatever it is, recognition, whatever it is. You keep thinking that's going to happen. So he says here, don't, you know, if you do that and you don't go for moksha, for freedom, then you're just committing suicide spiritually. And you might as well be honest and just stay in the world until you're fed up with it. I know it's a nasty, I know, I told you, it's all bad news here. You guys, you guys have all come to hear the bad news. I'm trying to put a smile on my face, but it's a sad story. Without self-knowledge, a person who studies scripture and practices rituals to propitiate the gods for various ends will never gain freedom. That means all your spiritual stuff, this is written in 1400 years ago, but it just means all your spiritual practice, you'll never get freedom. You won't get freedom by doing these spiritual practices. Spiritual practices are very valuable, mind you. It's very important to do spiritual practice. This is a spiritual practice. This is inquiry. This satsang, this teaching, is a spiritual practice. All spiritual practices are useful, but not for moksha, except knowledge. All these other spiritual practices are good for what? Purifying your mind. Getting your mind prepared for moksha. Because moksha, or freedom, takes place in the mind, in the intellect. I just don't understand that I'm free, so what? My intellect needs the moksha, needs the enlightenment. I'm already enlightened. I'm the light. I'm the light. What do I need? My mind doesn't understand. That's the problem. I keep saying I want this and I don't like that. Here I am, the infinite, limitless, transcendent, non-dual, ever-present, ordinary awareness, beyond everything, and I'm saying, oh, give me this, give me that. No, please, no. Out of my mouth is coming, this nonsense. Why? Simply because I don't understand. And for me to understand, I need a prepared mind. I need a mind that's clear and still and prepared. We're just going to discuss this now. The qualifications are what? A prepared mind. The next text we're going to take after this, the Bhagavad Gita, it goes into Karma Yoga. In Karma Yoga is the basic way you prepare your mind. It's a fundamental practice for preparing your mind. Here they're not even talking about Karma Yoga. If you notice, this is a more advanced text. It's assuming that you already are pretty much prepared. And unless your mind is capable, is subtle and pure and still and clear about what's going on, and all your basic psychological hang-ups are handled, managed in some way, and your likes and dislikes are under your control, this knowledge is not going to stick. So action, spiritual practice is great for getting your mind prepared, but it's not going to set you free. It's very important to understand this now. Because actions, the results of action are limited. And the mind is in the karma field, in the dharma field, so it can, there are actions you can do that can affect the mind, can purify the mind. Get rid of my psychological hang-ups and my problems and my agitations and so forth and so on. There are psychology. Psychology is good for that up to a point. A lot of people here in the spiritual world don't belong in the spiritual world at all. They belong on a couch with a shrink, basically. Sorry to say that, but none of the present company said that. But sometimes I'm walking down the street with my white clothes on, and I don't know if I'm a patient or the doctor here. You see, these people lighting the loafers and wandering around with all these crazy ideas and so forth. Now, the spiritual practice is for what? To get your mind prepared, but it's not going to produce moksha. Moksha is your nature. Only knowledge will produce that. Ignorance is my problem. The only thing that's going to remove ignorance is knowledge, not action. Action's motivated by ignorance, so it's going to reinforce my ignorance. This is why you can stay in the spiritual world and do all these practices for 20, 30, 40 years and still be ignorant of who you are. You see them, there's people sitting there doing meditation. The same people, I've seen a few of them, been sitting there for 10 years in Brahman ashram doing the same thing. Nothing's changed, and they keep meditating over and over and over again. Still no change in their understanding. They'll just keep meditating until the day they die, and they'll wonder why nothing happened. Because the meditation actually reinforces your belief that you're what? The doer. That you're a limited, incomplete, inadequate person, and you're waiting for some kind of big experience to what? Happen. That's supposed to blow you away, knock you out of the samsara waters and establish you in this high state of consciousness or whatever it is, however it's conceived of. So spiritual practice is good for what? For antakarna shuddhi is the word. Purification of the antakarna. This subtle body is called the antakarna, the inner workings. That's got certain parts in here, and we're going to discuss that when we get into the yogas and how the yogas work on this inner workings here. The spiritual practice is all good for that, but it's not good for moksha. Only knowledge is good for moksha, because ignorance is the problem. Really, I just have to keep hammering this point. I don't want to move on until everybody really is signed on to this. Because if you keep hoping for something, now listen, you'll get your epiphanies here in this class. People get all kinds of non-dual experiences from this teaching. But that's not what we don't care about. That's nice. It's a confirmation of the knowledge. The knowledge itself can give you these various experiences, put you in all sorts of samadhis, give you high states, take you out of your body, do all that sort of thing. We're not interested in the effects of knowledge. We're interested in knowledge itself, because knowledge is what sets you free. See? We're not here to get a particular experience. You'll have all these experiences. People tell me all the time, and I can tell by looking at your face and your consciousness whether you're experiencing some high state or not. Knowledge has the greatest power. There's no power like what's called jnana shakti, the power of knowledge. It can transform you like nothing. But for that to happen, I need to be prepared, and therefore spiritual work is important. That's what he's saying here. Millions of actions, he says, doesn't matter whether worldly or spiritual actions, verse 5, will not produce self-knowledge. Actions can purify the mind for gaining self-knowledge. We already said that. Therefore, approach a compassionate teacher, a knower of the self, and learn how to inquire into the truth. Going to teach you. This is going to teach you how to inquire. That means what? We're not going to enlighten you. We're going to show you how to enlighten yourself. You got to do the work. I can enlighten me if I know how to inquire. And Vedanta is just a means to guide your inquiry. I can enlighten me, but I can't enlighten you, because my ignorance, your ignorance, doesn't stand in my account. Only my ignorance stands in my account. So I can only one that can remove my ignorance, and you've got to remove your ignorance. But you need to have what? A method for doing that. It needs to be clear. I have to have a clear, proven method for getting rid of my own ignorance, and that's what inquiry is. It works. Okay, so now I got a valid means of knowledge. I've got a teacher who's established in the self as the self. Got a valid means of knowledge. What about me? Well, I realize there's no happiness in samsara, but that's not quite enough. Because there's a lot of people out there who know there's no happiness in samsara. Aren't there? There's tons of people out there who know there's no happiness in this world. But they're not necessarily qualified for moksha. Now these qualifications, how are we doing? Yeah, we'll go a little more. These qualifications, how did they come about them? Is this an arbitrary designation? I mean, who made this up? Who says I'm qualified or not? A couple of years ago, a fellow came to me and wanted me to debate one of these Neo people, famous guru. thought, are you kidding? I don't want to debate anybody. I don't have nothing to, I have no argument with anybody. Oh, yes, yes. He said, I said, well, that person, he's too famous. He wouldn't be willing, wanting to talk to me anyway. And beside that, who am I? I'm just a small little Chota guru. I don't, I'm not even on the spiritual map, so why bother with me? Oh, no, we can get a lot of people, make a big event, have a big Dharma combat, So, so I said, okay, all right, you set it up and I'll do it, but before I do it, I would like to at least read a book that he wrote or something. I don't even know what the guy's teaching, so please give me the book. Get me a book. So a few days later, he brings his book. Nice, big, fancy, lovely book. I forget what the name of it was. Well, I do know, but I'm not going to say it, because some of you will think I'm criticizing this person. I'm not. So I got to the bottom of the first page, and the second or third paragraph from the bottom, it said, there's no qualifications for enlightenment. That's what it said. That's what I thought, oh, there's no point in even talking to this person, because we totally disagree. We totally disagree. You need to be qualified. Isn't it obvious that if you've got millions of people seeking and like hundreds of people finding, that those people who are finding must be qualified to find it, and those people who aren't must be not qualified to find it? Isn't that logical? It's totally logical. Because this Vedanta, this teaching tradition is thousands of years old. There have been, I don't know if millions is the right word, but hundreds of thousands, probably millions of enlightened people in India and around the world who've contributed to this tradition. And they've spoken their knowledge, which confirms this and which is confirmed by this truth. So it's known what these people are and what kind of people they are, like Ramana. People have dissected the lives of these saints and the minds of these enlightened people. And what they found was, over time, that all enlightened people had these various qualities in their mind. These qualities were highly developed in their minds. And there's been obviously a long, billions probably people seeking the truth who have not found it. And so the knowledge of those people is also there as well. It's just scientific, it's just information. And those people were all found to be lacking in some degree to some of these qualities, or all of them, or a few of them, or whatever. See, why does one person get it and another doesn't? It's not grace. Oh, it's just magic. Like with Ramana. Oh, he was just, I don't have to do any practice. I just have to be like Ramana. I'll just I'll just won't do anything. I'll just wait for grace. Hey, grace is earned. Grace is earned. Grace doesn't just, it's not like winning the lottery. Those people who got it, they had what? They had followed Dharma and had punya karmas. They had karmas that what? Produced this particular conditions that allowed them to understand things. Grace is earned. It comes from punya. Punya means good karma. Virtuous activities that are in harmony with Dharma, that what? Dharma means your own self, your own nature, the non-dual nature of reality. And those actions produce the kind of circumstances or situations which are conducive to happiness and conducive to enlightenment or moksha. So what we've got here is a picture of a mature, qualified human being. In psychology, if you study psychology, psychology is great. For what? Telling you what pathological behavior is, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but there usually are several in these crowds. I don't think psychology has a definition of what a healthy human being is. Does anybody actually heard a definition from psychology of what a healthy human being is, a mature, healthy human being? No, you probably haven't. Because they don't have any. Because they're only interested in what's wrong with you. And what this Vedanta is, these qualifications are a picture of a healthy human being. A healthy, mature, grown-up human being. What they're like. And it's those people that are qualified for moksha. Now look, that doesn't say if you're not qualified that walk out the door. We're not saying that. We're not, okay? Don't say, because some of this is going to scare you off. Believe me, when we get into these, more bad news, guys. Don't run off. Because we have what? Ways to help you get qualified. The teaching itself will help you get qualified, and all the yogas are to produce the kind of qualified mind that's capable of self-knowledge. But don't think you can just walk off the street and pay $5, and get it. That's what they're telling you out there. That's all they've got, is the hope that you'll walk into one of these satsangs and the energy will hit you and you'll get some kind of experience and you'll feel like your awareness and you'll feel happy for however long you feel until the experience wears off. And then they tell you that's it. Or they'll point, it's this is it. You know the this babas? There's a whole bunch of teachers, I call them the this babas, and they're all pointing to this. This is it, this is it. Means they're in some kind of sattvic state of mind, and they're interpreting that as enlightenment. Sorry, I get excited on this topic, but it's important to really get excited about this topic and really understand this. Because this is why I'm not getting it, is because some of these qualities are lacking in my mind. And so after the break, we'll take 5. After the break, we'll start enumerating these qualifications. So if you don't believe me, the text says qualifications. Qualifications are required for self-knowledge. Time, place, and circumstances are auxiliary means. That means if you have a proper lifestyle, that's helpful. You have the right kind of good karma, you have enough leisure, you have enough time, you have a healthy body, you happen to be in the proximity of a guru, you have you're capable of studying and so forth and so on. All these secondary things are in place. Those are auxiliary means. Look, we're not going to be able to do this look, you got to come, listen, from now on we go from 10, and at 10 after you got to be in your chair, or I'm not going to talk. You got to show some discipline here, please. It's really hard to do this. I mean, this is a big job for me. And if I get started and then people are talking or they're coming in late or whatever, how can I teach you? So people are paying attention and somebody says something or does something or moves their chair, then you lose your train of thought, the idea's gone, I've got to back up and make sure you get it, because we're trying to go together here. I try to build this whole thing up into a nice satsang so we can all go together here. Make a group kind of thing. In this tradition, my guru was great. He could take 200 or 300 people right to the self, systematically, step by step, and everybody would go together. It was amazing to see. But, he was like a total disciplinarian cracking the whip. And there weren't any breaks, because everybody was really, highly qualified and really serious about getting it. So please, help me out. And help yourself out. Take your 10-minute break. Keep your mind quiet. Just go out and look at the thing and just relax. You don't have to chat and everything. Just keep silence. Come back after 10 minutes, sit down, and we'll get going. Otherwise, we're going to waste a lot of time. And it pisses me off. And you don't want me pissed off because I get cranky. And when I get cranky, it's not fun. But I can do the knowledge when I'm cranky, but I'd rather do the knowledge when I'm what? Happy. So please make me happy. And don't give me this stuff about you're always happy because you're the self. Okay. I'm not always happy because I'm the self. Okay, without the presence of a qualified teacher, self-knowledge will not take place. 4 qualifications are enumerated by those great teachers who have realized the self and obtained the vision of non-duality as revealed by Vedanta. The 4 qualifications are discrimination between the ephemeral and the eternal, dispassion with reference to objects, 6-fold secondary qualifications, and 4, a burning desire for liberation. And we're going to unfold or enumerate those qualifications for you. Now this is just a checklist. Don't judge yourself. Don't get down, oh my God, I'm not good enough. That part of you that doesn't feel worthy and good enough, and that wants an excuse to feel sorry for yourself and to not buckle up and do what you need to do. This is not a judgment. This is just something to understand. That's all. And these things can develop. You can develop these. As we discuss the sadhanas and the spiritual practices, you'll see how they develop all these qualifications. Only thing that, by the end of this course, the only thing that's going to be a problem is not that you're enlightened. The problem is the obstacles to your enlightenment. And you'll just, from then on, just be removing obstacles. You won't be worrying about enlightenment. You'll know what it is. And you'll know you are the light. It'll just be obstacles that'll be standing in your way, and those are just simply there because of a lack of qualification. And you'll have tools to get rid of those obstacles and to get yourself qualified. So, not to worry. Okay, the first one is called discrimination between the ephemeral and the eternal. Between what changes and what doesn't. Between awareness and the objects appearing in awareness. We said yesterday there's only 2 existential categories. Awareness and the objects appearing in awareness. That's all your experience is. Look at your experience. There's me, the knower, awareness, and then there's objects appearing in me. What are those objects? Sense perceptions. Smells, tastes, touch, sounds, sights, so forth and so on. Those appearing in me. Feelings. Emotions. Feelings. Those are objects. You have to get it clear what an object is now. And thoughts and ideas, beliefs and opinions, discriminations, any experiences are objects. In other words, there's only 2 things here, me and my experience. Everything that is not, every object is ephemeral. That is, every object is in time and is subject to change. Including the experiencer, the subtle body, the gross body. Including the experiencer, that experiencer is an object. The person that I think I am, Joe or Sally or Pete or Sam or whatever your name is, that person is an object to you. You are not that person. That person, it goes through changes. You know how that is? You say, well, hi. Somebody calls you up and they say, how are you? So, I'm going through lots of changes. Huh? Have you ever said that? Do you ever feel like you're going through a lot of changes? Well, you're not going through a lot of changes. You never went through one change. Awareness, meaning you never went through one change. You take yourself to be the experiencing entity. That experiencing entity is an object to you. It goes through changes. You don't go through changes. This is what discrimination means. The subject doesn't change. I, the subject, I, awareness, do not change. What? The experiencer and the objects that the experiencer is experiencing, they change. They're ephemeral. They're non-eternal. It's very clear. In fact, moksha, liberation, is defined by Vedanta as Atma, Anatma, Vivekaha. Viveka means discrimination. Anatma means, here this is not self. Not self. Not self means anatma. Atma means self. Anatma means not self. So the discrimination between the not self and the self. That's what moksha is. Simply understanding what this is and what that is. Think about it. All the confusions that we have, all the problems we have are confusing yourself with objects appearing in you. Anything other than yourself is an object. Anything but yourself is an object to you. The objects are not you, and I am what? The subject, awareness. And discrimination is knowing which is which. You cannot do anything about either one. Okay? Again, we're getting the karma out of here. You're not going to do anything about either one of these things, because this is totally what? This world of objects is just a dream world. It's like when you're in a dream, you don't produce any karma, do you? You don't produce any karma in a dream state, do you? Because the dream is just happening, isn't it? It's produced by the unconscious mind, and so it's just happening. You can't get good karma or bad karma in a dream. You can just exhaust karma in a dream. But you can't create any karma in a dream. You can just experience it, but you can't create or remove it in a dream. So this whole thing is just a dream. You can't mess with it. It's a projection. It's a hologram projected by ignorance. Boom, out there. Appearing, and that's all the objects. And the rules that are causing all the objects to move and change according to their rules, laws are called dharmas, all those laws are not under your control. So you're not going to be messing with those things. If you try to mess with them, you're just wasting your time. You haven't got discrimination. When you're an aviveki, and aviveki means an undiscriminating person, you're always trying to manipulate all this stuff here to make it work for you. If you're trying to like fiddle everything in your life to make it work for you, it means you don't have discrimination. Because you think you can change this to make it work for you. As soon as you change it to make it work for you, it just changes to what it wants to change. Anyway, huh? It's doing what it's doing all the time. You just believe that you should have control of it because you're stuck in it. And it's not to your liking. It's not to your satisfaction. And this you can't do anything about awareness either. Because awareness is eternal. There's not one thing you can do with awareness. Nothing. Zero. So reality is not something that you're going to mess with. Reality is something you've got to understand, and discrimination is just understanding which is which. The whole method of Vedanta is called Viveka. Every moment when I'm living, there's me and there's experiences appearing in me. Isn't that right? That's all I am. I'm awareness, and experiences are happening to me all 24/7. And I've got to what? Decide which is me and which is the experience. Because, huh? Huh? Get this now. I don't want experiences that are going to set me free. I want to be free of experience. This is a tough one, see? This is very hard. Our whole thing is because we're here, we just want special experiences. But what Vedanta is saying, no, you want to be free of all experience. You want to be free of all the objects that are appearing in you. That's what moksha is. So that when something happens that you like or you dislike, your mind doesn't modify to it. When something pleasant happens, you don't get all giddy and high and walk around feeling, like you're on cloud 9. And when something bad happens, you don't get all depressed and sad and feel like you're miserable and all that. You don't go up and down with experience. Experience is constantly in a state of flux all the time. It's going up and down. You don't have any control of it. And you don't want to go on that roller coaster. You want to see that you're always free of it. So you sit behind it and enjoy it for what it is. That's liberation. It's liberation it's liberation from experience and the experiencing entity. And there's only one thing that's free of that. And that's what? You. So this viveka is a statement of enlightenment, and for those people who can't see that, it becomes a sadhana. Sadhana means a spiritual practice. It becomes a method or a technique, right, that you use, right, to separate yourself from the things that are happening. It becomes an effort. Discrimination becomes an effort. And the more you practice it, the more your hang-ups and your problems disappear. You don't have to fix yourself, you just have to know what? It's not me. See, I believe that my mom, was a bad person and, made me miserable and unhappy. And my father was a mean man and he did this and that. I believe that. No. Mom and Pop had nothing to do with you. Those are just ideas, experiences that are appearing in you that have no reality at all. If you lack discrimination, you're going to identify yourself with the experiencer. You're going to say you've got all these problems. You get rid of your problems by seeing you don't have any problems. You identifying yourself as awareness, you have no problems. You're free, you're pure, you're perfect, you're whole, you're complete. Let's see, as the nature of the self is revealed, you'll see the self you have no problems. But owing to lack of discrimination, I take these things to be real. I say that I have problems, right? And I'm always trying to fix them. Simply by knowing I'm this, they get fixed. Because you don't, what do they say? What you resist persists. Huh? The more you pay attention to this and take yourself to be this psychological experiencing entity, the more it just you create it. It becomes your identity. And this whole teaching is about what your true identity is. Your true identity is what? As the observer, as the witness, as the seer of the objects. This is a very simple thing. There's nothing complicated about this. It's just a simple knowing of what the subject is and what the object is. And an enlightened person doesn't have to work at it. The knowledge is firm for them. So they always understand what an object is and never identify with the objects. We call it stithypregnia. His or her discrimination is steady or firm. So they don't have to, they just know that that's an object and they don't bother with it. That's why people like Ramana, they just could sit there. What kind of guy, that Ramana, what a guy, huh? He just sat in his underwear and didn't do anything. Didn't he? What a guy, huh? He knew that none of that was real. He knew I alone am real. And why bother with any of this stuff? So he can just sit in his underwear in bed all day. He reads a paper, listens to the radio, reads a few scriptures, writes a little things, let people sit and look at him. That would be pretty irritating, wouldn't it? Just, to have all these people sitting there staring at you and you're not saying anything and he's not. Silence, we're sitting in silence. People staring at me. They're just objects, they don't mean anything to him. Because he just sees himself as awareness, that's all. And nothing to be done about it. Freedom means freedom from the doer, freedom from doing anything about anything. When you take yourself to be, when you lack discrimination and you take yourself to be the experiencing entity, this is called the doer. This doer, this I sense, this ego. Then you always feel that you need to change something, manipulate something to make it different. To what? Fit into your likes and your dislikes. Reality is not here to cotton to your likes and dislikes, in case you didn't notice. Huh? No, really. Reality is not set up to please me. Believe me. It just does what it does. It's a great big machine, and it just cranks out experience 24/7, eternally. And what I like and what I don't like has no impact on the reality at all. The giver of the results of the action, which is called God, that giver of the results of the action has to consider all the factors in the field when it apportions results to me. And if those things that I want are not good for the field, you're not going to get what you want. Think about it. This is why there's so much rubbish that you want you never get, and you all feel frustrated. Because reality doesn't care. Because what you want isn't good for reality. It isn't good for the world. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for the total. If you were in charge of the results of your action, you'd have everything you want. But you're not. This is discrimination. Knowing that all the objects appearing in me are what? Not under my control. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, all beings follow their nature. Everything means everything here is programmed. And then after that Krishna says, what use is control? Why are you trying to control people and situations and things when everything here is following its dharma, its nature? Everything in this field is programmed. It means you lack discrimination. So now look, somebody's going to say, okay sir, you told me that this is the not self, but you also told me that this is a non-dual reality. So this has got to be the self too, doesn't it? Did you notice here I got little, you can't see, but there's little quotation marks around it. It means not self. It means it is the self. This is the self. Because if it is a non-dual reality, this is the self. But why am I treating it as the not self? What? Huh? That's a contradiction, sir. You said it's non-dual reality, now you say there's a self and there's a not self. Isn't that duality? No, it's not duality. The reason you have to treat it as not self is because you're identified or attached to it. So you have to break your attachment with it before you can see who you are. This is the purpose of discrimination, is to break your attachment with what's not real. He says up here, he says that a person who's what? Where is that verse? Anyway, wastes his time chasing unreal things. A person who's involved in chasing these unreal things doesn't understand that he or she's the self. And so because he or she's attached or identified and thinks these things are going to make them happy, so you've got to break your attachment by understanding first what you are. Once you understand this, then this all becomes yourself. But there's no bondage. There's no bondage then, once you understand it from this point of view. But as long as you're looking at it from this point of view, then you've got to treat it as not self. And dismiss all of these attachments and identifications with the objects. That's why we call it the not self. It's going to become the self. It always is the self, but it's going to become the self when you understand and are looking from this point of view. This is just a shift in point of view. This is not me and ego experiencing the self. This is me, the self, experiencing the ego. That's all enlightenment is. It's just a shift from one point of view to another. As long as I'm identified with this ego, this subtle body, this reflected consciousness, I've got the problem. And therefore I need discrimination as a tool. Be really clear about this. I need this as a tool. But once that I've broken my identification with these objects, and to do that what? I need to have faith in the Scripture. Right? If I knew it was true, I wouldn't have a problem. But I don't believe that it's true. That's because my fears and desires keep me chasing objects or avoiding objects, which means I don't really believe that it's true. So I've got to take the Scripture as the truth and operate from there. I have to have faith in the teaching. And then make my life conform to that. You're going to see faith is one of the big qualifications here. Some of them are not listed in here. We'll add some. So that's discrimination. Separating the subject from the object. Just those two things. The subject is you're permanent. You were never born, and you're never going to die. Okay? Is anybody here afraid of death? Yeah. That's you. When you understand this, your fear of death will go away. You understand. If you stick for the Bhagavad Gita, we get into the whole death and the change thing very, very deeply. There's no evidence whatsoever that you die. Zero. Where's the evidence that you die? Has anybody ever died? I don't think so. And to say that you die, wouldn't you have to be there to see yourself dying? To observe your non-existence? Wouldn't you have to be there to do that? Yeah. How can you say you die unless you're there to see that you die? Think about it. Death is just a belief. The body dies, yes, we know that. But the body's not you, is it? The body is an object appearing in you. The body is an object known to you. It comes, it's born, and it dies. We know that. But what about you? What about awareness? Is there any evidence that you were born? No, there's not. One day, one fine day, a baby body appeared in front of you, didn't it? Isn't that how it happened? Huh? Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. There's no evidence that you were born, and there's no evidence that you die. Zero. It's only a belief. Because what? I lack discrimination, and I identify myself with what? Something here in the samsara, in the world of change and time. We will see as we go along. All of these teachings will prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're awareness, that you're immortal. And all these, death just means change, basically. Death is just a dramatic, in our minds, change, because we're identified with our body, and we love existence so much we don't want to, what? Non-exist. But there's no evidence that you non-exist. Zero. It's purely a belief. Anyway, we'll see. So that's discrimination. Now, dispassion with reference to objects. We had a little chat about that this morning early, about the smells. Smells are objects. Dispassion with reference to objects means what? So what? The sewer stinks. Big deal. Okay? So what? The traffic's noisy. Who cares? The traffic is noisy, the sewer does stink, but why should I have my mind going up and down about it, since what? Thy agitation about it has no effect on it whatsoever. If your thoughts about the stinky sewer made the sewer stop thinking, fair enough. But the sewer stinks because that's its nature. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. Why are you getting yourself... You come to India, right? You know very well the sewer stinks. That's India. So why are you whining about the sewer? You know there's mosquito. Why are you complaining about mosquito bites? This place is full of mosquitoes. I have like so many repellents. I never get bitten because I got bitten by one that had filaria, and that wasn't fun. But hey, dispassion with reference to objects. Now, actually, you know, there's several definitions for dispassion, but the one I like best is indifference to the results of my actions. Think about that. What? Are you kidding? I'm indifferent to the results of my actions? I don't think so. I'm doing those actions precisely because I want those results. Isn't it? Well, why are you doing actions if you're indifferent to the results? Think about it. Why? Because the results aren't up to you. A dispassionate person is a person who knows the results aren't up to me. Therefore, all of that anxiety about the results is completely a waste of headspace, of time, of energy. And if I'm just sitting here worrying about what's happening and what's going to happen and what has happened, right? How careful and clear is my mind going to be? How carefully can I discriminate myself from my not-self? How are you going to do it? The results of your action is what's happening now. That's the results of your action. Everything that's happening to you now is the results of previous actions. That's prarabdha karma or sanchita karma. That's what? Fructifying now. That's called my life right now. That's the results of my past actions. If you're not satisfied with that, you're not dispassionate. And it's stupid to be not satisfied with it because what? The actions have already been done. So by being dissatisfied with what you got, you're not changing it, you're not improving it, you're not doing anything at all. You're just wasting your head, your emotions and your thinking on something that has nothing to do with you whatsoever. It's just what? The result of actions appearing right now. And I'm doing actions now that are going to fructify later. That's called agami karma. Agami karma. Oh, if I don't get that job, oh my God, everything's going to hell. I'll have to cut my wrists. Hey, that job is not up to you. If it was up to you, you'd have the job. But it's not up to you. So knowing that it's not up to me, I say, okay, que sera, sera. That's dispassion. What will be, will be. It's fine. I do my best, I do the interview, I qualify myself, I do everything that's necessary to do, and then don't call us, we'll call you. Huh? Isn't it? Huh? Don't call us, we'll call you. Means it's not in your hands. So pack it in. Stop worrying about it. It's totally gratuitous. This is a mature person. It's a dispassionate person. He or she's not going to waste their time worrying about all this shit. If it's up to you, fair enough. Worry all you want. But it's not up to you. Think about it. That's dispassion. Discrimination, knowing what the subject is, what the object is, not confusing the two. Not confusing me with what's happening to me. And dispassion is what? Indifference to the results of my action. And another definition is indifference to sense pleasures. It's the same thing. Heat and cold, pleasure and pain, all these things what? Are determined by the field and by your karma. They're not up to you. You have to suffer them. Because your body that experiences those is in the Dharma field, and the Dharma field is dualistic, and it what? It delivers pleasure and pain. It delivers heat and cold. All the dualities are operating here. There's nothing you can do about it. So you just have to be indifferent to it, that's all. Well, no, listen, you're free to get upset. You're free to like it or dislike it according to you. You're free to do that. But if you want that, if you want to do that, then you're just not going to get moksha. Because your mind is just going to be what? Trying to relate to all this stuff that's happening to you rather than what? Understand who you are. We're mumukshus. We're going for freedom. So we want to understand who we are. So our relationship to what happens to us is very important. See, children are not dispassionate. Children want what they want, when they want it, the way they want it. And unfortunately, in our Western societies, even though we got gray hair, we're like big babies. Isn't it? I read an interesting book written in the 90s by a poet called Robert Bly. It's called The Sibling Society. And he said that because of various factors, we're just like a bunch of kids. You got guys 60, 70 years old, gray hair and billions of dollars and running huge businesses and corporations, and they have the mentality of teenagers. They have the values and the ego structure of kids. They never grew up. They all everybody in this samsara just wants what they want, when they want it, the way they want it. That's a child. That's not an adult. An adult knows very well. It's not just about me getting what I want here. The reason Indian society has got so much spirituality, not that it hasn't got plenty of the other stuff too, but is because their society is not necessarily just a desire-oriented society. It's a Dharma-oriented society. In a Dharma-oriented society, you're mindful of the rules that are operating here. And you try to conform to Dharma. This is why when you go to India, I went to the post office one time, I had a parcel to mail. And the fellow was there, the postmaster was there. So I put my parcel on the desk, and I said, I'd like to mail this. Ah, yes, indeed. You have come to the right place. This is a post office, and you can definitely mail your parcel here. So, I sit there, and the parcel sits there, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and the parcel's not moving. So I said to him, okay, yes, I'd like to mail this parcel. Saab, indeed, I heard you. My ears are perfect. I understand. You want to mail a parcel. Yes, indeed. You think I'm an idiot? I know you want to mail. I said, well, how about you mail the parcel? How about you get... Oh, Saab, you see, I cannot do it. I said, okay. Why can't you do it? Oh, you see, Saab, the boy is not here. I said, the boy? What boy are we talking about? No, you see, Saab, it is the boy's duty to put the parcel on the scale. It is not my duty to put the parcel on the scale. My duty is to mail a parcel, is to fill out the forms like that. I said, okay, how about I put the parcel on the scale? No, sir, you cannot do. It is the boy's duty. It is his small duty to put there, not your duty. Your duty is to have to bring the parcel and get the receipt. That's your duty. My duty is to do it. His duty is to do it. I said, where's the boy? He said, you see, sir, the boy is taking chai now. He's just taking chai. I said, well, when will he come? Oh, soon, sir. He will come. Any minute now, he will come. So we just sat there till the boy came and picked up the thing and put it on the scale. And then there are rules here. Everybody's got their duty. Everything's operating according to what? The plan. It's not about you getting what you want. You see, I love to see the foreigners come here and try to like make this system work for them. You're an idiot if you're trying to make the system work for you. And believe me, the Indians are laughing at you. Believe me, they're really having their laugh, because I have a lot of Indian friends, and they just tell me all the time about their interactions with the foreigners. And we just don't get it. Now, we think they don't get it. But no, they think we don't get it. See, it's all rules and laws here. Everything's following its nature here. When you understand that, you relax, you take it easy. That's why you got so much spirituality here. Because people don't like disturb themselves about things that are out of their control. I mean, I could tell you stories all day long. These people handle their poverty and their misery better than we handle our prosperity. Honestly. You know that. That's why you like it here. You see these people, they haven't got a pot to piss in, but they're happier than we are. They're just surrounded by luxury and pleasure and all that sort of thing. Because they have this dispassion that comes from understanding the nature of reality. So dispassion. Now, the next we're going to get sixfold secondary qualifications. And he's got a definition for dispassion. Absence of longings for changing things from the body up to spiritual states. Okay, there's a good one. I'm glad I read the text. Up to spiritual states. Pack it in on your big epiphanies, guys. Okay? Give it up. Forget about wanting to have these big enlightenment orgasms. Okay? If they're going to come, they're going to come. If they don't come, they're not going to come. forget it. It's not up to you. If Bhagawan wants you to have a big epiphany and see the angels dancing in the cosmos, he will give you that vision. And if not, not. Right? Stop longing for spiritual experiences. A dispassionate person is not longing for spiritual experiences. That's why he puts it in here. It's not just for the worldly things. The body's included for worldly people. They don't care about spiritual experiences. In fact, they think the people who have spiritual experiences are goofy. But we don't care about the worldly stuff. We all want to have, spiritual experiences. He says, don't long for those either. You're wasting your time. It's not up to you. If they come, they do come. If you're supposed to get them, you will get them. And if you're not supposed to get them, no matter how hard you try to get one of these epiphanies. I just got an email yesterday, the day before, from a guy. He wants siddhis. He wants yoga siddhis. He wants to actually read the mind of the ants and to know what they're thinking. The ascended masters are thinking. That's what he was telling me. Give it up. Forget it. You can get enlightenment without one spiritual experience. Believe me, about half the people that get enlightened from Vedanta have never had one spiritual experience. And you'll notice in these qualifications, there's not one epiphany or spiritual experience is listed as a qualification for enlightenment. Not one. Why is it that you can get enlightened without a spiritual experience? Because you are the self already. And all this teaching does is what? Reveal the self. The self is right here present. It's you. We don't need to go someplace else or have some big experience to prove that you're you, to show you who you are. And even when you're having a spiritual experience, what? You're watching it, aren't you? Huh? The experience is just another object to you. If you don't understand, you'll make a big story out of it. You'll think you're all enlightened because you had this spiritual experience, but you're not. It was just another world, another experience happening somewhere subjectively in some part of yourself. It came and it went. It's not important. There's a certain value to spiritual experiences, and we'll talk about them as we go. But they're definitely not a qualification for enlightenment. In fact, spiritual experiences can be a huge impediment. You can just get it becoming a samadhi junkie. Huh? You see them. The meditators in Raman Ashram, a lot of those are samadhi junkies. They just get stuck in that ritual. They get high from it. They get glowy. And they just have to keep doing it to feel good. They get totally attached to the spiritual practice that they're doing. Because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel high. And they just become like worker bees. Just working to what? Feel good over and over and over again. So dispassion is, I'm indifferent to these things, these spiritual experiences. The mind is resolved when, bolstered by dispassion towards objects, its attention is removed and repeatedly placed on the self. Okay? Now we got two things happening here in existence. We got me, the subject, awareness, and objects appearing in me. When I'm dispassionate, what can I do? He's telling you what the value of dispassion is, and this is a method for liberation. This is how you free yourself. When you find yourself, you're dispassionate toward your experience. When you find an experience happening, then what do? You take your attention off the experience, the emotion, the feeling, the thought, or whatever it is, and you put it on awareness. You want something to do? You want a job? Okay, there's a job. There's a job. There's a sadhana for you. Just take your attention away from that and put it on the self. Now some clever person's going to say, how can you put your attention on the self? Because the self is beyond your attention. Right? We said earlier, didn't we say here, the self cannot be objectified? Isn't that the verse number 1? So how am I going to put my attention on the self? Hey, we got to take the piss out of these teachings too. That's why you have a teacher. If you read this, you'll be confused. You need a teacher. So we're going to resolve this contradiction right now. Tells you to put your attention, repeatedly place your attention on the self, but I can't place the attention on the self because the self's an object. What to do? Place your attention on the idea that I am awareness. The idea I'm awareness is what? As good as awareness. The access to awareness is through knowledge, because you're already awareness. And the thought I'm awareness is non-separate from awareness. So when you think the thought I'm awareness, you suddenly back right to awareness. You suddenly start seeing from awareness's point of view. And the object, the experience, whatever it is, shrinks down. Sometimes it just disappears, or it just shrinks down to manageable proportions and becomes obviously an object with which you cannot confuse yourself. So what placing your attention on the self means placing your attention on the idea that I am the self and contemplating on that. As soon as you do that, and when you know what the nature, what the self is, you will see that you are the self. Now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that if you're not dispassionate? How are you going to do that if you're worried about the sewer smell and whether your wife loves you, or if the money's running out, or if your kids are sick, or how are you going to do that?
You can't.
You can't. That's correct. You can't. Your mind, your attention will just stay in samsara, on the objects. Your mind won't be going to who you are. The qualified person is a person who what? Is a mumukshu, who wants liberation. So, and liberation's for the mind, so the mind's got to contemplate on the self. And what's the obstacle? My what? Attachment to the objects appearing in me. You can see why this is difficult. It's not difficult because it's complicated. It's difficult because what? Of my attachment to the objects. To having reality behave according to the way I want it to behave. Or having me be what I think I should be. There's an object. There's a good object. It's a problem for spiritual people. I want to be different from what I am. And I should be like this or I should be like that. You know that? Living up to your ideal, you think it, you know, a spiritual person has to be a certain way. And so you're always concerned that you're not spiritual enough, you're not pure enough, you're not holy enough, and so forth and so on. So you're always fixated on on what? The object, the experiencing entity, not upon the self. You see how tricky this object thing is. You need to have, he said here, you need to have a lifestyle in place, secondary qualifications, a proper lifestyle, that's secondary things. The circumstances that make it possible to inquire, then you need what? A dispassionate, discriminating mind, because what are we going to be doing here? We're going to be taking our attention off the objects and putting it on awareness. That's my job in these satsang. My job is just, what? To keep our attention on awareness all the time. We start, then once we got our attention here, then we work through all this stuff, and then we send our attention back to here, over and over and over again. Every time, Get rid of some object, some thought or feeling or belief or opinion or emotion that's standing in our way, and what? Put the attention back home where it belongs. Nobody else is involved in this. This is what, you know, this is why it's hard work. How these people can say there's no qualifications, I do not know. How they can tell you that anybody can just blow in off the street and get enlightenment, I don't know. just believing in this is not good enough. I need to what? Practically every moment and all the time there's what? Experience is occurring. All the time my attention is being drawn and attracted to my experience, to what I'm experiencing. And I've got to be looking at that and step back all the time. Hey, that's not me. That doesn't mean you can't act in this world, but you act with the knowledge that you're this, that you're whole and complete. And you solve, you relate to experience from that platform rather than what? From the platform that you're small and inadequate and incomplete and you need this experience to complete you. You do not need any experiences to complete you and make you happy. You do not need one experience to make yourself complete and happy. Sir?
So how you can act when you are all the time focusing the thought of awareness? If, let's say, if I want to drive, right? So I need to be like in a, sorry about my English, that in a driving world, okay, there's rules when you're driving.
Yeah.
You have to be careful not to, that people not scream.
When you're driving, drive. That's all.
But if I need to be aware for the awareness thing...
Well, you would have to be awareness or you wouldn't be driving. So just know that you're the awareness, that's all, and then drive. Where's the problem?
So if I want to do some act in the reality,
Yeah.
so-called, so I need to sometimes forget about the awareness and just...
No, you act knowing that you're full and complete. That's all. You can do everything you would ordinarily do, but you just do it with the knowledge that you're whole and complete. The only problem is I'm doing it with the knowledge that I'm incomplete. That if I get to my destination when I'm driving, I'm going to be with somebody different or better, or I'm going to gain something better, something from this. But you're not going to gain anything from it because you're awareness. So you just enjoy driving. As awareness, I enjoy driving, that's all. Huh? I don't believe I'm going to be different when I get to my destination. I don't believe something great is going to happen or something bad is going to happen. I know very well nothing's going to change. So I just drive with that understanding that I'm awareness. It'll become clear as we go. How are we doing here? Oh my God, we've run out of time. Okay, we'll pick up from there tomorrow.